Most people have no idea their home is slowly poisoning them. Formaldehyde seeping from furniture, benzene off-gassing from carpets, carbon monoxide leaking from gas appliances below alarm threshold. All of it invisible, all of it accumulating while you sleep, work, and breathe. NASA discovered that certain plants eliminate these compounds from sealed environments more effectively than mechanical filters. Number 7 has been used in hospitals for over a century. Number 1 was carried by Roman soldiers across 3 continents. These 20 plants are working right now in the homes of people who know about them. Number 20, snake plant. You have probably been sleeping in toxic air for years without knowing it. Victorian households in Britain kept snake plants in sick rooms before anyone understood why they helped. The understanding came later. The results were always there. It also pulls formaldehyde, benzene, trichloroethylene, and xylene out of the air, compounds seeping continuously from your furniture, carpet, paint, and cleaning products. It does all of this in low light, with irregular watering, in temperatures that would stress most houseplants. Water it once every 2 to 3 weeks in winter, once a week in summer. That is the entire relationship it asks for. The next plant works while you sleep in a completely different way, and scientists confirmed its mechanism by measuring it in human blood. Number 19, lavender. Pharmaceutical companies have spent millions trying to replicate what this plant does for free on a windowsill. Linalool and linalool acetate, the volatile compounds lavender releases continuously from its flowers and foliage, cross the blood-brain barrier and act directly on GABA receptors, the same receptors targeted by anti-anxiety medications. Clinical trials in hospital settings found that patients exposed to lavender aromatherapy showed reduced pain perception, lower blood pressure, and slower heart rate without any pharmaceutical intervention. A lavender plant on a bedroom windowsill releases these compounds across the hours you sleep. The concentration is lower than a diffuser, but the duration is longer, and the passive continuous exposure is what the sleep quality studies consistently measured as effective. Trim lightly after each flowering flush. The cut stems, tied into small bundles and slipped inside a pillowcase, concentrate the effect directly at the source. If you have not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Every week, this channel publishes guides exactly like this one. The research-backed knowledge that most wellness platforms bury under product recommendations. The next plant is something most people already own and consistently underuse, not knowing it carries a first aid kit inside every leaf. Number 18, aloe vera. Break a leaf from an aloe vera plant and hold the cut end over a minor burn. The clear gel that runs out contains asamannin, aloin, and polysaccharide compounds that reduce inflammation and accelerate skin cell repair at a speed that surprises most people the first time they try it. Egyptian queens Cleopatra and Cleopatra both reportedly used aloe vera as a core element of their skincare routines. Alexander the Great is said to have conquered the island of Socotra, specifically to secure its aloe supplies for treating his soldiers' wounds. This plant has been a medical tool for over 4,000 years across cultures with no contact with each other, which is the strongest available evidence that it actually works. Allow the yellow latex layer just under the skin to drain away before applying the clear interior gel. That yellow liquid is aloin, a powerful laxative compound and a skin irritant in sensitive people. The clear gel beneath is the part worth using. The next plant tackles a problem that affects millions of people daily. From an air pollutant, most of them have never heard of. Number 17, peace lily. Most people assume their cleaning products are making their home cleaner. In terms of air quality, some of them are doing the opposite. Florence Nightingale, who transformed nursing practice in the 19th century, insisted on plants in hospital wards long before air quality science existed to explain why. The peace lily's particular combination of air cleaning and humidity output, it releases moisture vapor continuously through transpiration, is precisely the combination that closed, heated hospital rooms needed. In winter, indoor humidity in centrally heated homes drops to levels that dry out nasal passages, irritate respiratory tracts, and increase susceptibility to airborne viruses. A peace lily in the bedroom adds moisture passively, without the electricity cost or maintenance of a humidifier. Water it when the leaves begin to droop very slightly. The plant tells you when it is thirsty more reliably than any schedule does. That is air quality and humidity handled. The next plant handles something that costs the global economy $300 billion a year in lost productivity. Number 16. Rosemary. In 2016, researchers at the University of Northumbria placed participants in a room diffused with rosemary aroma and tested their speed and accuracy on cognitive tasks. Performance improved significantly. Blood tests confirmed elevated levels of 1,8-cineole, one of rosemary's primary volatile compounds, in the participants. The compound had crossed from the air into the bloodstream and was measurably affecting brain function. Ancient Greek scholars wore rosemary garlands while studying, believing it strengthened memory. The same compound those scholars were unknowingly dosing themselves with through their garlands is the one now confirmed in controlled trials to improve cognitive performance. They were right. They were just 2,000 years early. Pinch leaf tips regularly. The damaged tissue releases more volatile oil than intact leaf, and the pinch tips go straight into cooking, making this the only plant on this list that actively rewards you for disturbing it. The next plant is the one that needs no attention, tolerates everything, and is quietly doing something to your air that most people would never guess. Number 15. Spider plant. Your gas hob, your open fireplace, and the exhaust seeping from a garage attached to your house are all producing carbon monoxide at concentrations that stay below your alarm's threshold, but above the level that causes headaches, fatigue, and difficulty concentrating. Most people blame stress. Most people are wrong. Spider plant removes carbon monoxide and formaldehyde from indoor air with documented effectiveness in controlled studies. It does this in low light, in cold rooms, in the irregular watering conditions of busy households, and with the cheerful indifference of a plant that evolved to survive genuine hardship. It produces runners with small plantlets that root in water within 2 weeks. One plant becomes 12 within 2 seasons. A spider plant owner who actually repots those runners rarely runs out of plants to give away, and rarely pays for a houseplant again. Simple, indestructible, genuinely working on your air right now. Now for the one that most people grow purely for decoration, having no idea what it is doing to the room around it. Number 14. Pothos. Pothos is the plant most commonly found in neglected corners of offices, trailing from high shelves in dim hallways, growing in glasses of water, forgotten on windowsills. Most people who own one think of it as furniture. It removes benzene, formaldehyde, trichloroethylene, carbon monoxide, and xylene from indoor air simultaneously. Benzene in particular, which off-gases from paint, furniture wax, glue, and detergents at concentrations that accumulate invisibly over years, is something pothos handles with a consistency that more celebrated plants do not match at the same low-maintenance cost. It also adds humidity to heated indoor air through transpiration, contributing to the moisture balance that central heating systematically strips from every room it warms. What comes next does something to the nervous system directly, through a mechanism so specific that one German university published a study comparing it to prescription medication. Number 13. Jasmine. In 2010, researchers at Ruhr University in Bochum, Germany, discovered that the volatile compounds released by jasmine flowers produced sedative effects in mice equivalent to certain benzodiazepines by acting on the same GABA-A receptor system that anti-anxiety drugs and sleeping medications target. The compound responsible is not yet pharmaceutical, but the mechanism is confirmed, and jasmine plants produce it continuously during flowering. In ancient Persia, jasmine was planted outside bedroom windows specifically so the night-blooming variety would release its scent into sleeping rooms after dark. Chinese emperors used jasmine-scented rooms for diplomatic meetings, believing the fragrance made guests more agreeable. The plant has been used to alter mood and reduce tension for centuries across cultures that had no shared knowledge, only shared observation of a plant that reliably did something to the people near it. A jasmine plant in a bedroom or living area releases these compounds passively during its flowering period. No diffuser, no extraction, no action required beyond keeping it alive and in a bright enough position to flower. Cool it down in winter. It needs that cold rest period to set next year's flower buds. Give it that, and the following summer's flowering pays back the patience. The next plant says nothing, smells like nothing, and yet measurably lowers blood pressure and cortisol simply by being in the room. Number 12. Rubber plant. There is a body of research in environmental psychology showing that rooms containing large green plants produce lower cortisol readings, lower blood pressure measurements, and lower self-reported stress scores than identical rooms without them. The effect does not require interaction with the plant. It does not require awareness of the plant. It happens through the visual system, passively, at the level of the nervous system, responding to the presence of living green in the environment. It also removes formaldehyde from indoor air at rates among the highest tested for any houseplant, processing the continuous off-gassing from pressed wood furniture, carpet backing, and insulation through its large leaf surface and through the microorganisms in its root zone. In Victorian Britain, the rubber plant was a status symbol in middle-class drawing rooms long before anyone understood what it was doing to the air. They just knew the rooms it occupied felt better. If you have watched this far and have not hit the like button yet, do it now. It takes 1 second, and it keeps this kind of evidence-based content reaching people who need it. The next plant was used in hospitals in Britain for over a century before modern medicine replaced it with pharmaceutical alternatives, and researchers are now revisiting exactly why it worked so consistently. Number 11. English ivy. In the 1800s, English ivy was grown inside tuberculosis wards across Britain. Nurses who had no germ theory, no understanding of airborne pathogen transmission, and no scientific framework for air quality management noticed that ivy-planted rooms produced better patient outcomes than bare ones. The practice continued for decades on the basis of observed results alone. NASA's Clean Air study later confirmed what those Victorian nurses had noticed empirically. English ivy was the most effective plant tested for removing airborne mold particles from enclosed spaces, reducing counts by up to 94% in 12 hours in controlled conditions. Airborne mold is one of the most consistent triggers for asthma, chronic coughing, and respiratory congestion in homes with poor ventilation. It concentrates in bathrooms, basements, and rooms with condensation issues. English ivy hung in a bathroom or placed near a known mold source addresses this specific problem with a specificity that most air purifiers, which filter particles but do not eliminate mold spores biologically, cannot match. It also removes benzene and formaldehyde and grows in the low light conditions where air quality problems typically concentrate. Keep ivy away from children and pets. The leaves are toxic if ingested. In adult spaces, it requires nothing beyond occasional watering and the ambient humidity a bathroom already provides. The next plant was prescribed by British physicians for over 100 years for a specific respiratory complaint, and the compound responsible for that effect has since been isolated and confirmed in clinical trials. Number 10. Eucalyptus. During the 1800s malaria outbreaks in parts of Europe and Australia, eucalyptus trees were planted in swampy areas, not as air purifiers, but because local observation suggested their presence reduced illness in surrounding populations. The trees were draining water, which was eliminating the mosquito breeding grounds. But the volatile compounds they released were simultaneously doing something to the air that nobody had measured yet. The primary compound, 1,8-cineole, also called eucalyptol, loosens mucus in the airways, reduces bronchial inflammation, and improves airflow in people with sinusitis, bronchitis, and mild asthma. These effects have been confirmed in multiple clinical trials. It also carries antimicrobial properties against several airborne pathogens, which begins to explain what those 19th century observers were noticing. The silver-green disc-shaped leaves on long stems are also the most visually dramatic foliage of any plant on this list, which is why those same florists charge what they do. What comes next is not dramatic to look at. What it does to your winter health is. Number 9. Boston fern. Every winter, central heating turns your home into a desert. Outdoor humidity in temperate regions through winter runs between 40 and 70%. Indoor humidity in centrally heated homes drops to between 20 and 30%. below the threshold where human skin, nasal passages, mucous membranes, and respiratory tracts function correctly. Chronic low humidity causes dry cracked skin. It dries out the mucous lining of the nasal tract that traps airborne viruses before they reach the lungs. It increases the airborne survival time of influenza virus specifically because the virus travels further in dry air than in humid air. Boston fern releases more moisture into surrounding air per unit of leaf mass than almost any other commonly grown houseplant. A single large fern in a living room adds meaningful humidity passively, without electricity, without a water reservoir to refill, and without the mineral deposits that humidifiers leave on surrounding surfaces. It needs consistently moist compost. It does not tolerate the wet-dry cycling that most houseplants handle without complaint. Keep it evenly moist, and it produces the dense, lush growth that maximizes its transpiration output. Let it dry out repeatedly, and the fronds brown at the tips and eventually collapse. That management requirement is the price of what it does to your winter air quality. For most people, it is worth paying. The next plant needs almost nothing and produces its health effect through a mechanism researchers are still mapping precisely. Number 8. ZZ plant. There is a concept in environmental psychology called attention restoration theory. It proposes that the brain uses two distinct attention systems: directed attention, which requires effort and depletes with use, and involuntary attention, which engages effortlessly and restores the directed system while it does so. Natural environments, particularly those containing living plants, engage involuntary attention in a way that manufactured environments almost never do. The ZZ plant's deep, glossy, dark green leaves catch the eye without demanding it. Looking at a ZZ plant requires nothing, but the looking restores something, in the same way that gazing at water or sky restores something. Through a mechanism, the brain runs automatically below the level of conscious decision. Interior designers specify ZZ plants for recovery rooms, therapy waiting areas, and home offices on the basis of this research. Therapists recommend them for bedrooms where the goal is mental decompression. The overlap between those two professions on this specific plant is not coincidental. It also tolerates low light, irregular watering, and temperature neglect better than virtually any other plant on this list. The most cognitively restorative plant available also happens to be nearly impossible to kill. The next plant produces a more active, immediate effect, one that most people feel within minutes of sitting near it in full leaf. Number 7. Golden pothos. A wall of trailing golden pothos is one of several hospital design elements, now backed by enough evidence that certain healthcare systems have begun specifying it in ward renovation guidelines. Studies placing patients in rooms with trailing variegated plants versus bare rooms consistently show lower reported pain scores, lower anxiety self-ratings, and faster discharge on several metrics. The mechanism involves the visual complexity of variegated foliage, two-toned leaves producing a pattern that draws the eye gently without holding it, creating the soft fascination that attention restoration theory identifies as the most effective, passive, restorative state the brain can enter. The yellow-green variegation of golden pothos does something to a room that plain green alternatives do not. It is visually lighter, more dynamic, and more complex in a way that reads as alive rather than merely green. It removes the same range of indoor air pollutants as standard pothos, adds humidity through transpiration, propagates freely from stem cuttings placed in water, and grows in light conditions ranging from bright indirect to relatively dim. One cutting becomes a trailing plant within a season. That plant produces dozens of cuttings within a year. A home that starts with one golden pothos cutting can have living green in every room within 2 years at no additional cost. The next plant works on the body through direct chemistry. You can feel it the moment it brushes against you. Number 6. Geranium. Scented geraniums were grown in the hallways of English country houses specifically so that passing visitors would brush against them. The hosts understood, without the scientific vocabulary to explain it, that the volatile compounds released from disturbed leaves did something measurable to the mood of the people who encountered them. The mechanism is now documented. Rose-scented geranium, Pelargonium graveolens, releases geraniol and citronellol from its foliage. A clinical trial found significant reductions in anxiety scores and measurable drops in blood pressure and respiratory rate in participants exposed to rose geranium aroma compared to controls. Antifungal and antibacterial properties of the same compounds have been confirmed in laboratory settings. Place a scented geranium where daily movement past it will brush the leaves. A narrow hallway, a kitchen windowsill beside a frequently used counter, the doorway between a living room and a kitchen. Each brush releases a burst of volatile oil into the surrounding air at exactly the moment a person is present to receive it, creating a passive, repeated aromatic exposure that requires no deliberate action. Citronellol also deters mosquitoes, making a geranium on a warm weather windowsill functional in a way that most ornamental plants are not. The next plant does something to the immune system that its 2,000-year history of use in Chinese medicine suggested long before clinical research confirmed it. Number 5. Chrysanthemum. Chinese physicians prescribed chrysanthemum tea for eye inflammation, respiratory infections, and fever for over 2,000 years. When modern phytochemical research eventually caught up with that tradition, it found flavonoids, chlorogenic acids, and essential oil compounds with confirmed antimicrobial activity against several common pathogens, the same properties that justified 2 millennia of prescription. In NASA's air quality research, chrysanthemum ranked among the most effective plants tested for benzene removal. Benzene accumulates in homes from tobacco smoke, paint, furniture wax, glue, and detergents at concentrations associated with long-term health risks. The chrysanthemum's large, dense flower heads and high transpiration rate make it one of the most active air processing plants available in a compact form. The specific detail most guides omit is this: the air purification works at peak rate when the plant is actively flowering. Once the bloom cycle ends, effectiveness drops significantly. Treat chrysanthemums as seasonal air quality installations rather than permanent fixtures, replacing them when the current bloom ends. They are available for almost nothing at supermarkets in autumn. Each one is an air purifier for the price of a sandwich. The next plant is the permanent fixture that stays beside it all year, working in rooms where every other plant on this list would struggle to survive. Number 4. Chinese evergreen. The rooms in your home with the worst air quality are probably not the rooms with the most light. Hallways accumulate pollutants tracking in from outside. Bathrooms hold cleaning chemical residue and moisture-driven mold. Bedrooms off-gas from synthetic bedding. Carpets and MDF furniture in the enclosed air of 8 hours of sleep. These are the rooms that need air purification most, and they are also the rooms that get the least light, which is why most air purifying plants fail to survive in them. Chinese evergreen, Aglaonema, processes benzene and formaldehyde from indoor air while thriving in the low light conditions where this matters most. A dark hallway, a north-facing bedroom, a bathroom with a frosted window. These are precisely the environments where Chinese evergreen performs, and most alternatives fail. The varieties range from deep green with silver markings to vivid pink, red, and cream forms that produce dramatic visual impact in the dim spaces they occupy. A pink Aglaonema at the end of a dark hallway is visible from the other end of the house in a way that makes the hallway feel like a different architectural space. Keep away from pets. The sap is an irritant. Keep away from cold drafts. Water every 1 to 2 weeks. Beyond those conditions, it requires almost nothing. The next plant is the most demanding on this list in terms of conditions required. It is also among the most rewarding when those conditions are met. Number 3. Bamboo palm. Your wardrobe is probably one of the most toxic areas in your home, and almost nobody accounts for this. Trichloroethylene is a solvent present in dry-cleaned garments that off-gases into enclosed spaces over days and weeks after cleaning. It accumulates in wardrobes, walk-in closets, and bedrooms where dry-cleaned clothing is stored in quantities that cause headaches, dizziness, and liver stress under chronic exposure. It is colorless, odorless, and invisible against the background of every other thing you breathe at home. Bamboo palm, Chamaedorea seyfritzii, removes trichloroethylene from indoor air with a specificity and effectiveness that most other houseplants cannot match. Placed in or near a bedroom where dry-cleaned garments are stored, it addresses this specific accumulation passively and continuously. Beyond this, it is one of the most effective, large-format humidifying plants available indoors, combining the high transpiration rate of a tropical plant with the formaldehyde and benzene removal that makes it one of the most comprehensively useful entries on this list. The microclimate it creates around itself, stable temperature, elevated humidity, and visual softening of corners with organic form contributes to the stress reduction effect that large indoor plants consistently produce in controlled research. It needs bright, indirect light and consistent moisture. Those conditions are the price of everything it provides. The next plant produces an effect, not through the air, but through direct contact with the skin, and it has more documented historical uses than anything else on this list. Number 2, philodendron. Philodendron is one of the most effective formaldehyde-removing plants tested in controlled air quality research, and it delivers this from a plant that grows in conditions ranging from bright indirect light to relatively dim indoor corners. The heartleaf philodendron, Philodendron heteroecium, produces trailing growth that increases its total leaf surface area as it matures. A 3-year-old philodendron in a hanging planter is meaningfully more effective at air purification than the same plant at purchase because the mechanism, leaf surface area in contact with room air, compounds with growth rather than declining with age. Its vine growth means it occupies vertical space rather than floor or shelf space, making it practical in small rooms where every horizontal surface is already spoken for. A philodendron growing up a moss pole or cascading from a high shelf is processing the air at multiple levels of the room simultaneously. Note the safety issue clearly. Philodendron sap causes skin irritation in some people and is toxic if ingested. Keep it positioned away from curious children and pets. And now the final entry, the one that carries more science behind it than any other plant on this list, and a history that stretches across 3 continents and 4,000 years of documented human use. Number 1, Areca palm. In the 1980s, NASA scientists working on sealed environment research discovered something unexpected. Of all the plants they tested for air purification effectiveness, one tropical palm produced results that stood apart not just on one measure, but across multiple categories simultaneously. Areca palm, Dipsis lutescens, removes benzene, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, trichloroethylene, and xylene from indoor air. It transpires approximately 1 liter of water vapor into the surrounding air per day from a mature specimen, making it one of the most effective natural humidifiers available without electricity or a water reservoir. Dr. Bill Wolverton, the NASA researcher who led the clean air study, listed the Areca palm as the single most effective air purifying plant he tested across all categories combined. In Ayurvedic medicine, which has been practiced continuously in India for over 3,000 years, Areca palm featured in treatments for respiratory conditions, digestive disorders, and skin problems. The same plant that Sanskrit medical texts described 17 centuries ago is the one NASA researchers measured in sealed chambers and found more effective than any other tropical plant tested. Stand near a mature Areca palm in a warm room. The air around it is noticeably different, cooler, more humid, with the faint green freshness that only a large volume of actively transpiring plant material produces. It is the closest thing to outdoor air that an indoor space can generate from a single plant. It needs bright, indirect light and consistent moisture to produce this effect at scale. It will not do what it does in a dark corner with irregular watering. Give it the conditions it needs, and it transforms the air quality of a room in a way that mechanical filters approximate, but never quite replicate. This is the plant to start with. Everything else on this list adds to what it begins. Thanks for watching. Stop breathing air. Your home is quietly poisoning. Start with one plant from this list. In 6 months, your home is a measurably different environment, and the headaches, the restless nights, and the low-grade fatigue that you assumed were just part of life may turn out to have had a source you could have addressed with a pot and some compost. Click the next video on the left, because what we cover there about outdoor plants that transform your health takes this conversation somewhere most people have never considered.